just off the M6. Excellent place to give the dogs a bit of exercise and have lunch. This is the River Linn, and just up there past the rapids is another picnic spot on a oxbow in the river. Almost 2 years ago exactly, we were here at this park up in Was, about there. And now we're here in Thistle, our crafter, with all 3 dogs. My previous trip, and there's an entire playlist on YouTube of that previous trip, we only brought Sam the Beagle. This is just outside of Newcastleton, and that track up there, between those 2 trees up there, that's where we saw some red squirrels last time, so we're going to go and have a look before we cook dinner. You may just be able to hear the water in the stream below. But there you go, there's your classic Instagram-y typey sort of looking at the sunset. Well, the sunset's to our left and we're not at the beach, but this is a lovely place. I'm sure it'll get blamed on all the campers, but just look at all the rubbish a bunch of kids have just left behind, having spent their afternoon playing sports at this sports ground in North Berwick. Phenomenal amount of rubbish. Every single one of them was too lazy to put it in the bin just there. And I bet it would get blamed on all the camper vans up here, given half the chance. But, you know, why people let their children do that, I do not know. It's just incredible. Anyway, Karen's going to come out and clear it all up in a minute. Came to this little village to look at the Pictish stone in the, I guess what you would call the village square. But that is a replica. I love the mahogany in this ceiling of this church. And the original stone is here, some 1200 years old. And then behind it is another one. And what I'd like to know is, what's this chain for? The replica's got the same chain, so it obviously has some meaning. It's held in by what looks like lead. So, unlikely to be original, you never know. But that one's got a cross on it. But the replica, you can make out these animals a bit more clearly. But it's all engraved with animals and people. There's a slight appearance of a cross there. And then we have a info board. Maybe we should better read from this video later on. And the village is called Fowlis Wester. Guessing that's how you pronounce it. And on this trip to Scotland we are going to be looking at quite a few Pictish stones around Forfar. We did a few when we came here a couple of years ago. The stained glass windows are commemorating a reverend on the left and a minister on the right, 1852 to 1910. And then there's another one over there. I do like this ceiling. Might be mahogany, or just stained to look like mahogany. Lovely lamps with energy efficient bulbs in. That's an interesting, it's not coming out properly on here, let's take a photograph of it. And they've got the memorial to the Second World War as well. On this side. And again, the Roll of Honour. There's the Roll of Honour for the Second World War. And reflection. Restored in 1927. We spent the night here at Pill Farm. It's a Brit stop, and as you can see, the flag was at half-mast because of the death of the Queen. We had started to notice Suzie wasn't looking quite right. These are the falls at Glen Isla. Not on the map, but we're staying at Pill Farm, one of the Brit stop locations, and they've got a lovely walk around the farm. There's some deers in that field there. We decided we ought to take Suzie to the vets, and they kept her in overnight for observations and quite a lot of tests, x-rays and scans and blood tests and all sorts of things. And I'm glad we did, because she was extremely unwell. Her blood cell count was down to 20% and the normal rate is 40%, and they weren't quite sure what was wrong. So we wandered around Kirriemuir for a while. We were going to go back to Pill Farm, but we ended up going to the Reekie Waterfall, which was absolutely fantastic. Obviously, we were concerned about the dog, and we went to collect her the next day. But Kirriemuir proved to be an interesting little town to wander about. We got some more Pictish stones in as well. Unfortunately, they were behind perspex, so you couldn't see them very well. Molly wasn't too bothered, missing her sister. She had a nice little wander along the embankment. This is the bridge you can see in the previous clip where we parked for the night. And Karen visited the Meigle Museum while I stayed in the van with the two dogs. Quite a lot of Pictish stones to see in here. I think it was quite expensive to go in. It's probably one of the only ones we had to pay to go in. But I thought I'd include the photographs because I didn't actually see any of the stones myself. Yeah, they certainly had a good collection there. But I went for a wander around the village of Meigle, however you pronounce it. While Suzie was in the vets, as I said, they did several tests. They were looking for internal bleeding. They didn't find anything, and when they released her, she came out with a cocktail of drugs, 6 or 7 tablets a day for the best side of 2 weeks. And so we decided she needed a rest. She couldn't walk very far. One of the symptoms was she was extremely tired and panting and not eating her food and just generally run down. Well, Suzie out of the vets, and £1,160 later, and a requirement to go back after 5 days for another blood test, we needed somewhere to go and hide. And Gella Bridge turned out to be ideal. Really lovely location, even though it was a bit isolated. This is Gella Bridge. We've stayed here for a couple of nights. Nobody else in vans, a couple of girls in a car, and they parked up beside us for the night, but they were actually over there where the picnic bench is, using the rocks and the fire. There's a seat up there. There's a strange shed with a pulley system going across the river, not sure what it's for. And out towards the beginnings of the Cairngorms. This is a B road that goes round the loop. It goes about another 6 miles in that distance to a ranger station, and there are a couple of places up there to stay. But this is the first stop we found on this road without no overnight parking signs. The B road goes up on that hill over there, and there's a parking point there, but it says no overnights, and there's another one a bit further down the road. But this has been fantastic, because Suzie hasn't been very well. We took her to a vet's, and it turns out she's anaemic, and she's a bit weak, so we're just spending a couple of days parked up rather than too much travelling. And there's another parking spot, as I said, over there, but it's not flat. Amazingly, where we are there, that is 100% level. The car park itself slopes towards the river, but because the suspension on the back is higher, we're absolutely... I've not actually parked anywhere yet on this trip where we've been 100% level. And there's a bin, and it's empty. Whereas the bin over there is full to the gunnels, and it's even got an ironing board in it. But a lot of these park-ups have got large bins, really handy. Then last night a couple came with their very young children, and they were sawing pieces off of that log there, and they had a open fire down there by that picnic bench. But this has been a great place just to rest the dog for a couple of days. We had intended to go up into the Cairngorms and up towards Fraserburgh and to a pottery that we rather like, but because we had to come back with the dog, we went off and found some more Pictish stones, and these at Abbey were lovely. The village hall, a little car park there, you can stop there, a toilet, probably even someone to get some water. And we eventually decided to head off down towards Stonehaven and look at the castle there and work our way down south and just sort of in a bit of a loop down towards Arbroath and then back up to Kirriemuir to the vets 5 days later for another blood test. So you just have to adapt. You know, it was an expensive trip to the vets. It did rather put a dent in our schedule where we had intended to go, but we found some lovely places, as you'll see in what will probably be part 2 of this series. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode, and hope you enjoy the next 2 or 3.